Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be discussing the best OLED monitor for gaming which are available in India. Now, having scraped through all the different brands which are out there which offer OLED monitors, I compiled a list of 42 models, out of which 17 have been disqualified for different reasons. Either their pricing wasn't there, or they aren't available, or they're just listed on the manufacturer's website with no provision from where to buy it from. And 25 of them have been analyzed. Now, we'll be going through all 25 of them and in what conditions you should buy them and which ones to buy. So we'll go through all the specs and everything for each and every monitor, and you'll be able to figure out as to which OLED monitor is best for you. Now, a little note about OLED technology. So the OLED technology as of today only has two variants, which is WOLED, manufactured by LG, and QD-OLED, which is manufactured by Samsung. OLED as a technology has some inherent advantages over LCD panels. Those advantages obviously transfer to all the screens which are sold by brands. So OLED have high refresh rate, low response times, infinite contrast, means that the blacks are actually black. The accuracy is fantastic and they are extremely thin. Disadvantages being OLED has a couple of inherent flaws as well. They are prone to burn in, but those were more prominent in the earlier models. Nowadays, burn in is really not that possible unless and until you push your OLED to its limit. So, LG being one of the manufacturers for OLED, they have certain technologies that would discourage a burn-in, but still they are prone to burn-ins. The second being low brightness. Low brightness is something that OLED does suffer from, unfortunately. There are versions where brightness also can be increased, but those OLEDs as of now are too expensive and not being manufactured for monitor. So as of today, we only have two technologies: QD-OLED, which is manufactured by Samsung, and WOLED, which is manufactured by LG. QD OLED doesn't have a polarizing layer, so reflections on QD OLED are harsh. OLED, on the other hand, does have a polarizing layer, so the reflections are better handled by LG panels. And QD OLED has better color accuracy. OLED, on the other hand, has very good accuracy, but they're not as vibrant as QD OLEDs. And that is where the differences end. More or less, both panels are the same. Although LG's new panels do take a certain, I would say, around 10 to 15% more brightness than the QD OLEDs, but for most of the models, it's roughly the same. Now, for the purpose of this video, we'll be dividing the monitors into sizes and curvature. So by curvature, I mean if the panel is flat or having a radius of 800 mm or having a radius of 1800 mm. Now, once you know whether you want a flat panel or a curved panel, it'll be much simpler for you. And of course, the size. So how do we decide that? So for the size, I do have a chart over here which you can refer. So it depends on what kind of experience you want. If you want an immersive experience, then you should go with 800R because the curvature is more. With 1800R, the curvature is a little less and it tends to resemble a flat panel more than a curved panel. So you can have larger field of view and with that larger screen sizes. So if you want complete immersion, you go with 800R. If you don't want complete immersion but a better viewing experience than a flat panel, then go with 1800R. And if you are competitive or you are looking for competitive gaming, and that is your forte, then please don't go for curved, just go for flat panels. We'll start off with flat panels first. So flat panels as of today come in 5 sizes. The 5 sizes: 27 inch, 32 inch, 34 inch, 42 inch, and 47 inch. Now 42 and 47 inches, you're going into TV territory. If you do start going that big a screen, then you'll be blurring the lines between a TV and a monitor. So be careful there a little. In my experience, a monitor should go maximum up to 34 inches if it's flat, that is. So 27, 32, and 34. Now let's go over this table and we'll be starting with 27 inches. With 27 inches, we have Gigabyte, LG, MSI, Samsung, and Alienware. Now, if you look at Gigabyte does not offer G-Sync in any of its models, which is very surprising. They do not support G-Sync, but since they have VRR, then you can have variable refresh rate. Technically, they don't, but I would stay away from Gigabyte just because they don't have G-Sync. If you have an AMD card, then go ahead with Gigabyte. But if you don't, then try to stay away from the LG 27GS. Now, the GS is an improvement over the GR. They have higher brightness and they are obviously manufactured by LG. So this is a good buy for people who have high brightness rooms or a lot of reflections coming in. So if you're looking for the best TV with better reflection handling and high brightness, don't even look at any other OLED monitor at 27, just go for the LG. MSI over here is the cheapest out of the lot. So if you want the cheapest OLED that you can buy and the minimum size, MSI Max Series 271, this is the cheapest one. It's a no-brainer again. Now the Samsung Odyssey G6 is, I would recommend over the Gigabyte just because it has higher refresh rate. The brightness and everything is almost the same or par with the others. Even the response time, everything is the same. It just doesn't have a USB Type-C. If you do want the Type-C, then you can go with the Alienware, although even that doesn't have a data transfer Type-C. You can just have a power delivery there. So the data transfer Type-C is only there with Gigabyte. And the Alienware, again, it's exactly same to the Odyssey because it does use the same panel. Samsung is the supplier for all of them except the LG one. So the panels are the same and it's just a little bit cheaper. The only differentiator between Odyssey and Alienware is that Alienware has a KVM switch and the Samsung doesn't. So there you have it. We're done with our 27-inch flat panels. Now we'll move on to the next, which is 32-inch flat panels. With the 32-inch flat panels, we have the Asus ROG first. Now, the Asus ROG employs the LG panel, the WOLED panel, and these are the newest generation OLED panels, which is why we see that Asus ROG is the most expensive out of the lot. There is a 20% increase in peak brightness. So if you're looking for better reflection handling, as well as say, if you have a bright room or you tend to have reflections, then go for the Asus ROG. Otherwise, we have the Gigabyte. Again, as I said before, Gigabyte has no official support for G-Sync. So if you do have an NVIDIA graphic card, try to stay away from Gigabyte. MSI, on the other hand, has the lowest refresh rate out of the lot. If you're looking for a higher refresh rate, then MSI should not be your pick. Now, the MSI over here has two models, 321 UP and 321 UPX. I would disqualify the UPX QD over here, but I've kept it because it's available and it's at a cheaper price point. So if you don't value the refresh rate that much and 165 Hertz is enough for you, then go ahead with the 321 UP. Next, we have the Samsung G8 QLED Odyssey. Now, the Samsung, again, since it's the supplier, that's why it's gone the cheapest out of everyone. So this is the price listed on their website, and I'm guessing that you'll get another maybe 5 to 10% discount on this. You might be able to get it down to as low as 85 or 86. So Samsung, again, over here would be the most recommended after the Asus. Asus, the only reason that I wouldn't recommend is because of its high price point. But if you want better reflection handling as well as better peak brightness, then Asus should be your choice. Dell, on the other hand, again, they use Samsung's panel. I don't see any reason why a person should go with Alienware over the G8 Odyssey. It honestly has no differentiator. The only differentiator between the Alienware and the G8 Odyssey is the coating of the panel. Alienware uses a glossy coating which tends to handle reflections a little better. With the matte coating, you tend to get purple blacks instead of black blacks, and also the halo effect. So glossy tends to be a little better, although reflection handling is a problem with OLED. So I wouldn't be too anal about it. Between these two, whichever price I would say is better, go for that. My pick would be Samsung Odyssey G8. Next panel size is 34 inch, and at 34 inch we just have one model, Alienware. I would like to mention a special thing over here about the Alienware 34 model. Now, this is the only panel in all the models that I've analyzed which has G-Sync Ultimate certificate. I've gone through all of them and they all have G-Sync compatible certificate. It does reassure any buyer that you're getting the best out of your NVIDIA graphic card. So Alienware 34, if you do buy, it's a no-brainer and you will get most out of your card if you do go ahead with this. So the next size we have is the 42 inch, and at 42 inch we just have one model, and this is by Asus. Now about this model, it is a little peculiar because its average brightness is quite high, 400 nits. Now at 400 nits, there is no other panel amongst all the monitors that has 400 nits of average brightness. But on the other hand, the disadvantage is that its peak brightness is 900 nits. Now for HDR, you do require minimum of 1000 nits. So be careful with this model. Its average brightness is high, but its peak brightness is low. That means the highlights in your HDR video, that they won't pop out as much as they would on other panels who have better peak brightness. Peak brightness is usually for 1%, 2%, or maybe 10% of your screen. You can expect a little lower HDR performance from this. Next size category is 48 inch, and honestly at 48 inch, it's very hard to recommend monitors over TV. So we have two models of monitor. The first is the Acer Predator CG48. Again, this is hard to recommend at 1,40,000. 1,20,000. The LG C4 comes at a much better price, and the brightness also is very poor. So the average brightness is 135 nits, and the peak brightness is also poor. So Predator CG48, stay away from it. Not a good buy. The Gigabyte Aorus F048U. Now, again, the problem over here is with its average brightness. Average brightness is lower than the LG C4. Even peak brightness is way low at 600 nits. Definitely do not recommend this. Stay away from it. The only reason that you would probably go with these two is maybe because of the refresh rate. Even the Predator has a 138 refresh rate. LG, I think C4 has 144. So Predator, under no circumstances should anyone buy it. Stay away from this monitor. Aorus, maybe, because if you don't have any other option at 48 inches and you desperately want it with higher refresh rate and brightness, it won't be an issue because you'll be sitting in a dungeon, I hope. So you can go with this, but again, I do not recommend this at all. Next, we will be talking about the 1800R displays. That means the radius of curvature is 1800 mm. Now we're going with a more gradual curvature. 800 is more aggressive. So we'll talk about that later. If you're going above, let's say 34 inches, then you can consider 1800R displays. There are only two sizes which are available as of now. So there's 34 and 49. So we'll first take a look at 34. In 34, we have the Acer Predator X34V. Then we have the MSI Mag 321 CQP and the MSI MPG 321 CQP. The Predator has the better pricing out of the lot, but it does have lower refresh rate at 175 hertz. The response time also is the lowest out of the lot. The coating is matte. It does have a Type C port, which has a power delivery. Acer Predator, you definitely can go forward with. The panel for all three of them is QD-OLED, so difficult to differentiate in terms of performance from panel. The Acer Predator X34V. The only disadvantage of this over the other two, I would say, it doesn't have an HDMI 2.1 port. It has an HDMI 2.0 port. It does matter when you have higher refresh rates, but its refresh rate is limited to 175, so you won't be needing 2.1 port. If you do want HDMI eARC or something like that, then you don't have an option. It does have a Type C port, but I think if port is something that you're really concerned about, then only disqualify it. Otherwise, the pricing is better than the other two, and it's a decent buy. MSI Mag is priced at 1 lakh, so it's easy to recommend this. The only contention over here is that it has a Type C port, which only delivers 15 watts of power, but you can't use it as an external display. All three of them have KVM switches, so we're not going to talk about that. The MSI MPG 321 CQP-X. So the CQP-X, it has a glossy coating. So the glossy coating, as I mentioned before, is better. It handles reflections better, as well as it has higher refresh rate. So if you want 240 hertz, then you should go for this panel. Also, the Type C port comes in with 98 watts of power delivery. So you can power up a laptop with it, fast charge it even, as well as connect it as an external display. So this is future proof, definitely. If out of all the three you're looking for future proof and the best technology, go for the CQPX. If you don't want to spend 20,000 extra, then go for the Acer. MSI, the 321 CQP is difficult to recommend with the Acer. So there you have it. After analyzing the 34-inch category, let's move on to 49-inch category. And there we only have two models. So the first one is the Gigabyte Aeros CO49DQ. And the next one is Samsung Odyssey OLED G9. Now, the Gigabyte, first of all, is more expensive. It has a lower refresh rate. And the only reason that I would find myself going for the Aorus over the Odyssey is because of the Type C port, if I value it that much, and if I really need a KVM switch. These are the only two reasons. And mind you, the 18-watt power delivery on the Type C port is not, you cannot use it as an external display to your laptop. So you can't do that. With the Odyssey G9, there's no Type C port, there's no KVM switch. But other than that, in every aspect, the G9 is a better buy, also at a better price than the Aorus. Next, we have a special mention with the Corsair Xenon Flex. Now, this is the only monitor which is bendable. I haven't gotten a chance to get my hands on it, to be honest. But from the spec sheet of it, it is the only monitor in the market where you can bend it from 0 to 800R. If you do value that, then go ahead, have a look at it, experience it first, and then maybe buy it, because it is quite expensive at 1.5 lakh. The only competitor to this is the LG G Flex, because they manufacture that. And LG G Flex you might find at a lower price, and if it's not available, then you can go for the Corsair. So the Corsair is at 45 inches. It has very standard brightness when it comes to OLED technologies. Refresh rate is 240 hertz. Matte coating. Type C port is available. FreeSync is there. G-Sync compatible, but it doesn't have a KVM switch. Now with the 800R, there are only LG models available here. 800R is a curvature that is not available with any other brand out there. So we'll just be looking at LG models, and you can expect almost identical performance from all of them. It just depends on what size you want. So let's get on with it. With the exception of the 45GR 95QE, all three of them, the 34, 39, and 45 models, are exactly the same, with the only difference being their size. Stay away from the 45GR. GR means that they're part of the older series. The newer refresh series is the GS series. And they do have better brightness handling. At 275 nits, they handle average brightness better. Other than their size, all the three models, 34, 39, and 45 GS series, are identical. For the ending, I will attach the table for the brands that didn't qualify for this list. You can go through them in case they get available to you. But because there are information missing about it, or it's really not clear from the manufacturer, I would advise to avoid it. But here you go. So that was my entire guide on OLED monitors, and I hope you liked it. But if you think that I've left out anything or you want to know more about, please comment and I'll get right to it.